Well, the courage to teach is on many, many levels, I think. The one that comes most quickly to me, that's been with me for a long time, has to do with the fact that our educational system is so riddled with fear. Fear is what we use to, quote, motivate young children to learn, as if we didn't know that young children are natural learners, that young children are curious, that young children want to probe everything. Hang around with a 4 or 5-year-old for a while, and what do you get? Question after question after question after question. Why? How? What? Who? And yet somehow we get them into schools, and after a few years we think we have to use fear to motivate them to learn. Now you sit down and do this, or you're going to flunk the test. You're going to fall behind Johnny or Susie. You're not going to get to go to college. You're not going to have a good life. We use fear as an inducement. And of course, all we induce is paralysis. Paralysis of the spirit, paralysis of the mind. So in the middle of all that fear, it takes courage to teach because the teacher has to penetrate the student's fears. The teacher has to create an alternative reality to the one being created by the school system or the world around the child. And that takes a lot of courage. That means you're swimming upstream. You're going across the grain. And it takes guts to do that. The other reason it takes courage to teach, or another reason, is that teachers have their own fears. They fear that they're holding something so precious in their hands, the life of this child, or the subject that they're teaching, which most of us who teach take very seriously, that they can't do justice to these treasures. And so you teach with trembling knees. You're always feeling inadequate to the task, and it takes courage to come back day after day after day to that sense that there's a gap between what you're able to do and the potential that's in these kids and how you want them to look at the world through the lens of your discipline or your subject. So those are some of the reasons it takes courage to teach. Additionally, it takes courage to deal with administrators who don't understand what teaching is really about. It takes courage to deal with politicians who claim to be putting forth policies that are in the best interests of our children, but which aren't. Policies that in fact are merely in the best interests of the politicians promoting them. Ways of manipulating public opinion to get elected to office. I call it evil when the claim is that this is for the sake of the children, and in fact it's for the sake of getting some grown-ups elected to office and giving them lots of perks, while the children are getting crushed in the process. I think that's a reasonable description of social evil, and I think it's what's going on in our society. It takes courage to stand with integrity in the midst of a situation like that.